Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play, link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, welcome to this Tactica video. It's a new series. I've done one for the Thousand Suns already. It's the top 5 units, and this time it's for the Space Wolves. So I've been revamping the army and I've picked out my top 5. I reckon these units, I'd heartily recommend them for your own Space Wolves army, both competitive wise and then also narrative wise as well. These are great units, unique units for the Space Wolves, and I think they perform very well on the tabletop as well. So that's the point of this video. It's to help you out as you try and perhaps form an army together, or you have some Space Wolves but you're looking to expand your collection. You're trying to figure out what units to go for, sort of collection wise, and also to stand a chance in games as well. So this is the point of this series. I used to do sort of different Tactica videos all over the place, but now I'm trying to pull it together and we'll cover 5 units here all in the one video. And these are the top 5 units, and this is the best of the best here, in my opinion. If you disagree and you think there's better Space Wolves units, then by all means leave that in the comments section below, or if you agree with what I'm saying, then leave comments approving that as well. If you're collecting Space Wolves and new to collecting Space Wolves, check out the comments, see what other Space Wolves players are saying, and hopefully this video and the comments will guide you to putting together a decent Space Wolves army. And then if you want to see the full list, the entire army, 2,000 points, ready to go now for 9th edition, then check out the complete army video, which should be live at the same time as this one. So for Space Wolves, my collection, I've tried to go for units that are very unique to the Space Wolves and very sort of fitting in with the theme and narrative of this chapter. So very aggressive, working together as a team, hunting down the enemy, striking at the right time. So aggressive units, a lot of close combat style units, and it's a fun way to play Space Marines instead of just gun line type stuff and just tanks blasting away and sort of disciplined firepower, which has its place, but not really with the Space Wolves. I want more of a pack that hunts and tears the enemy to shreds. So a lot of the units you're going to see are very aggressive ones, which I think matches the Space Wolves very well. So we'll go in reverse order. So I'll leave the best till last. So at number 5 is Blood Claws here. I'd heartily recommend these for your Space Wolves army, and you can catch the opponent out sometimes, quite often, as to how potent these can be. And there's a number of things that just build up and up and up, and you can actually get them where you get tons and tons of very reliable close combat attacks for quite a cheap unit. So the models that you'll see, virtually all of them have been painted by Siege Studios. So if you want them to do commission work for you, there's a link for them in the video description below. They've done an amazing job of my Space Wolves collection here, so very happy with the work that they've done. So by all means get in contact with Siege Studios for your own painting commission work. But here are the Blood Claws. So we'll just push them along there. That's one combination I go for. I'll bring in another unit of 6. There's all different ways to run these, so maybe check out the comments section and see how other people run them. I run them at the moment in units of 6, so smaller units, but it's quite useful for 9th edition. Where you're having to split units away and hold and fight for multiple objectives. Seems to be the way that 9th edition is going. So you need that flexibility. So I've gone for smaller sized units. It's better for morale as well. It's not as much of an impact when you've only got 6 models. You've got a big unit of 10 or more, then it's going to cause you problems potentially for morale. Blast weapons is something to watch out for now in 9th edition as well. So smaller units seem to get off a bit more lightly with blast weapon firepower. So we'll look these up here in the rules. I'll try and share with you all the tips that I can to try and really show you all the enhancements that you can take for this humble unit. Really, it's not that popular a choice, and not, you know, it's not talked about as being one of the deadly options to go for, but I rate them if they're used to their full potential. So really what you're getting is a Space Marine stat line, except their ballistic skill is 4+. So for firepower, that's not what you're going for, it's weapon skill. So bolt pistol and chainsword as their standard loadout. So a Marine's going to get 1 attack, then immediately you're going to get an extra attack because you're carrying the chainsword, and then remember you can use your bolt pistols in close combat as well, so you're gearing towards close combat. Then we'll start building this up. So potential of 2 attacks with the chainsword. Now that the rules for Space Marines, shock assault, there's an extra attack on the charge, or if you are charged, or perform heroic intervention. So another attack if that happens. So now 3 attacks for 1 model. Then just gradually starting to stack stuff up here to make them better. So then we need to go to, you need to have this here for Space Wolves Saga of the Beast. This has got your extra stratagems, the updated rules for Space Wolves and so on. So if you haven't got this, heartily recommend that you get a hold of it. So that's your shock assault, that's the extra attack on the charger if you are charged. Something else with the chainsword, once you get to assault doctrine, which I try and aim to get to, that's turn 3 onwards, then your melee weapons and pistol weapons get an extra AP -1. So their pistol's going to be AP -1, and the chainswords will be AP -1 as well, so that's pretty cool. And then, and some Space Wolves players miss this one, but there's extra bonuses here for the Space Wolves. Here. So then they get Hunters Unleashed. So if you were charged to perform heroic intervention, it's +1 to hit rolls. So now all of a sudden they become 2s to hit in close combat instead of 3s. So super reliable with their attacks, and a nice lot of attacks so far. And then once you get to Assault Doctrine, then unmodified hit rolls of 6 pop extra hits. So loads of attacks. And then there's more. For Blood Claws, this is why I like taking them. You get Berserk Charge. On a turn in which they make a successful charge, you get an additional attack on top of that as well. So a Lone Marine, base of 1 attack, +1 for Chainsword, +1 for Berserk Charge, +1 for Shock Assault. Now you've got 4 attacks, and it's 2s to hit. So all of a sudden, these 5 humble Marines are kicking out 20 attacks at 2s to hit. You know, or indeed 10 Blood Claws. It's 40 attacks at 2s to hit. It's a crazy amount of attacks. And so you can catch your opponent out sometimes. This is a small little unit of Marines, and they think, oh well, Marines, they just have 1 attack each. When in fact, on the charge, Blood Claws are going to have 4 attacks each, and they're going to be hitting at 2s. To further enhance them, you can take units like, there's multiple units that do it. Here's Crom Dragon Gaze here, one of my favourite models. You can have him nearby, 6-inch bubble, rerolling 1s. So now you're on 2s to hit, rerolling 1s on top of that as well, and that's exceptionally reliable attacks in close combat. You're almost maxing out each time with your attacks. All of them are going to find their mark, and so you can just start to saturate targets. I mean, they'll mash through light infantry very quickly, or they'll force heavy infantry to make loads and loads of saves, or they can chip away at armour on vehicles. And you know, quite cheap. 15 points a model now, the new updated points for 9th edition. What you'll also notice inside these squads is a Terminator, and you're able to do that with Blood Claws. It says here you can, each unit contains one Blood Claw pack leader and 4 Blood Claws. You can take 5 more or up to 10 more, so you can have big units of 15, but blast, weapons and morale is going to be an issue, and then you're not as flexible to move around, split up and move around to other objectives. So I've gone for smaller units. But it also says here, you can also include either a Wolf Guard pack leader or a Wolf Guard Terminator pack leader. So it's 23 points for the Terminator, but for that you're getting the Terminator stat line, so you're getting 2 wounds instead of 1, a 2-up armor save, 2 attacks, and then a 5+ inv save as well. And then I go for a variety of different options here. This one, you can go for Lightning Claws, Frost Claws. This one here, Thunderhammer and Storm Shield, so you're adding a layer of protection with him. You've got a model that's got 2+ save, 3+ inv save and 2 wounds. And what the Terminators can do is they can add a bit more punch to your unit. So now I've got a Terminator that has 2 attacks, extra attack for his weapons, extra attack on the charge for being Space Marines, extra attack because he gets Berserk Charge on top of that as well. So loads of attacks just from one model, just to really give them an enhancement. And again here, 2 attacks base, extra attack on the charge, extra attack Berserk Charge, and then you get to Assault Doctrine, 6 are popping extra hits. That's a Terminator that's running at a very efficient rate, and he's buried in amongst the Marines, so the opponent's got to try and get rid of these regular blood claws in order to get through to the Terminator. And I was running my Terminator squad of 5, all Terminators, and the opponent would see them, shoot them, and they'd be gunned down. But now I've spread them out in amongst my smaller squads, and it's that much harder for the opponent to try and deal with them. So sometimes you can try and protect the Terminator, or you can flip it around. You can use the Terminator to protect the Marines. So you've got some standard firepower coming through, there's no minus on it, and some wounds starting to build up. Then you can roll up for 3+, and then if you fail you lose models. You can roll your 2+ armor save, which is much more likely to pass, and then there's 2 wounds there, so if you foul one, and if it's damage 1, he's still going to remain alive. So perhaps with a command reroll on standby, you can tank a load of hits on him to protect the regular Marines, because they've got lots of attacks. Sometimes it's worth doing. So it works both ways. Or if you really want to keep them alive, Marines can take the damage and the casualties, and they'll protect and keep the Terminator alive if you wish. And sometimes you'll see it in games, it's either way. Sometimes I'm trying to protect the Terminator, other times the Terminator's trying to protect the infantry. But all in all, adding a layer of durability to that little 5-man squad, it becomes a 6-man squad with tons of attacks, and the Terminator in amongst the middle of them. So sometimes in games you won't see their full potential because they're at my front line, and so they're being shot at and shrunk down in size, and so we never really get to see the potential that they have. But other times they'll keep their full strength and they'll charge into something and just unleash a ton of attacks coming through, and they can cause, a small squad like that can cause an upset. And sometimes you can catch your opponent out. They think, oh yeah, my guard squad will be fine, or 2 guardsman squads, and then you plunge into them with these, and then they just they cut loads of them down very quickly with loads of attacks. There's even more attacks that can come through. A few little things that can be done. Just try and share all the bonuses here. So if you can get an unnamed character nearby carrying the Wulfen stone, then that's going to grant extra attacks for friendly Space Wolves, infantry, biker and cavalry units within 3 inches. So, 4 attacks on the charge, 5 attacks on the charge. And then if you can get an unnamed character with Saga of the Wolfkin Warlord trait, then it's +1 attacks, and that bubble is 6 inches, and that's for units that were charged to perform heroic intervention. So it's 4, 5, 6 attacks each. It's madness, and each time each +1 is going on to that Terminator as well, and they're kicking out tons of attacks also. So the potential to go from 1 attack all the way up to 6 attacks, just as bonuses starting to stack up, I think it's brilliant. So there's real potential with the blood claws, and so I've put them into my top 5. And I just, the look wise as well, just having those Space Wolf Marines painted up, just with the sort of ginger coloured hair that Siege Shearers have done, the wolf helmets and the shoulder pads, and the Terminator actually buried inside each squad. It's very unique, and just love the whole theme and the look of how they appear on the battlefield as well. And they go perfect with Cromp. Cromp sits in amongst them. Similar hairstyle and so on. So great combo. But that's number 5 then. Blood Claws here for my top 5 Space Wolves units. Okay, so moving on. And this video is all Classic Marines. I still rate Classic Marines. These small units here. Just to give you actually points then. So 118 points here, including the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. And then here 108 points. Nice cheap units. If they're wiped out and destroyed, it's not too much of a big deal. 100 point unit and a 2000 point army is not too much of a problem. But the potential there from them is tons and tons of attacks. So the next unit is Thunderwolf Cavalry. Perhaps you're expecting these to be ranked higher, but I've put them in at number 4. So this is a fast attack option. So I'm obviously running a good number of infantry squads on foot, my Space Wolves army, and so I am in need of some speed for this list, and so Thunderwolf Cavalry help fulfill that. There's all sorts of different ways to run these, and again, check out the comment section and see what experienced Space Wolves players are saying. What is the best combo at the moment? Maybe it's experimental at this stage of 9th edition coming along to find the best combination for Thunderwolf Cavalry. But I run mine a little bit unconventional, but there's all sorts of options. You really can load them out with loads of war gear and make them quite nasty. I've gone the opposite direction. Mine are quite minimal with their loadout. So for my army, my anti-tank stuff's buried in amongst my characters and hidden in the army. Thunderwolf Cavalry, they're out there at the front. They're going to be a bullet magnet, and so I know they're going to get shot at. I know the opponent's going to cause casualties, and so I don't add too much war gear to them. Instead, I try and have them just as a bullet magnet instead. So one thing I do for these is give them the Storm Shields across the board. I used to give it to 1 or 2 models, but now I pay the points to give them all Storm Shields. So 3+ invuln savers across the entire unit. So making it difficult for the opponent to bring them down. Very, very difficult for the opponent. Their toughness 5. So small arms, fire painted, bolters and las guns. Only going to be wind on 5s. Whatever hits them with shooting or indeed close combat, it's a 3+ invuln save. So they're going to be reliable because you know it's going to be 3+ every time. If the opponent starts using heavy guns against them, las cannons and so on, then you're going to be tanking those hits with a 3+ invuln save. And then usually I'll keep a command reroll on standby just to get that reroll as well, just to further slow down the process of grinding them down. So one of the reasons why I run them at such a low loadout is I know they're going to be shot at and a bullet magnet, so there's high potential they're going to be destroyed, and so therefore I don't want to spend too much on war gear on models that are going to be blown away. So I keep them nice and cheap and spend the points elsewhere on my anti-tank and nasty close combat units. So I just give them either a power axe on the squad leader, units of 3, power axe on the squad leader, and then chainswords, or perhaps chainswords across the whole squad. It gives them +1 attack for taking chainswords anyway, so that helps out against sort of lighter hordes or lightly armed light infantry type units. So you've got 2 attacks each over and above a regular marine with 1 attack, so 2 attacks base, +1 for chainsword, +1 on the charge for Space Marines as well. And then on top of that, squad leader gets an extra attack, and also you get an extra attack with the crushing teeth and claws. And in fact, you're getting 3 extra attacks with the crushing teeth and claws as well from the mounts. They get to fight as well. They come in at strength 5, AP -1. If you get to assault doctrine, the chainswords will go to AP -1, and then the Thunderwolf mounts will be AP -2. So pretty good at chewing through light infantry. They can still disrupt heavier targets, not by destroying them, but just by charging into them. So some heavy infantry, some good guns, charge these guys in. That forces the opponent to stay in close combat and try and fight them off, or pull back and then lose the ability to shoot. So they can cause disruption. Same with a vehicle. You can charge into a vehicle, force the vehicle to either pull back and not be able to shoot. Now 9th edition, even if it's a unit that's a skimmer or can fly, it still won't be allowed to shoot. Or the opponent has to stay in close combat and try and shoot these, in which case they're shooting at them and they're not shooting at your other units. So distraction type units, bullet magnets deliberately, and then just make them as durable as possible, so the opponent has to spend more and more time, more and more effort, more and more resources to destroy them. 147 points for Unit 3. Thunderwolf Cavalry, you can go, it's 1 Cavalry Pack Leader and 2 Thunderwolf Cavalry. You can take up to 3 additional Thunderwolf Cavalry, so you can go up to units of 6, but again, smaller units I think are going to be useful for 9th edition, because the game is spread all across the board now, because there's so many objectives, and the need to control objectives and board space is massive now. It's Thunderwolf Cavalry, from a tactical point of view, very useful for that as well. I also use them for screening, so I'll bring the model in just a moment, but the Wolf Lord can go behind these to be protected and shielded. So he's carrying the anti-tank ability, but he's hidden, and then they're doing their job of screening and protecting him. So multiple roles for the Thunderwolf Cavalry is always something for them to do in the battlefield, in the game. Grabbing objectives, screening friendly units, absorbing enemy firepower, charging into light infantry. It's loads of roles. That's the roles that I have for them on the board. And again, like the Blood Claws, if they're brought down, I haven't invested tons of war gear into them, and I lose my anti-tank ability because I've invested that somewhere else, and it's only 147 points. But I think it's well spent. They're such great tactical use for my list. Now there may well be, there's bound to be others that completely disagree with that approach. Check out the comments to see what people are saying about how Thunderwolf Cavalry can be used. There's all sorts of different ways to use them, or maybe you agree with what I'm saying, and that's how you use them as well. So that is number 4. Thunderwolf Cavalry make it into the list. We'll take a look at the third choice now for top 5 units for Space Wolves. Alright, so the third choice then is back to HQs, and it is, let's bring it up here for you. There's so many HQ choices to choose from, and there's some that I've missed out. There's some amazing ones, but I am a big fan of the Wolf Lord on the Thunderwolves. This is the custom one that I've made for my Space Wolves armies. Just took one of the Thunderwolf Cavalry models, and then just added loads of extra accessories on top just to make him out to look like a Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf mount. And then with your HQ choices, just to make them look a bit more important, you can mount them up on top of rocks and so on, add in some battlefield debris just to lift them over and above the regular Thunderwolf Cavalry models. So that's what I did with him. Certain combination that I go for, because he's not a named character, you can pick and choose what war gear that you want, and you can go for a certain combinations. And again, I keep saying check the comment section, but this is one where people go for all different kinds of loads out here for the Wolf Lord on the Thunderwolf. So I'll show you my combination, but there's other great combos that are out there, and so it'll be fascinating to hear what other combinations people use. See, a standard stat line is pretty powerful. I mean, it's movement 10, so it's nice and quick. Weapon skill and ballistic skill 2+. So really it's the weapon skill you're interested in, of 2+ there. Strength 4, toughness 5, so that's really going to help the toughness 5. 7 wounds, loads of wounds on this model. 4 attack space, leadership 9 and 3+ save. It does come with a 4+ in 1 save as standard, or you can go down the route that I've gone down, give him a Storm Shield to give that 3+ in 1 save. Very, very, very useful. So you can charge him into a target, and if he doesn't take it out and it's a bit of a nasty unit, then this 3+ in 1 save is going to be so helpful. And then he's granted reroll hit rolls of 1, so it's going to help out other units nearby, such as other units of Thunderwolf Cavalry, or he'll get his own bonus. So he'll reroll 1s to hit. Now his attacks are very, very reliable. 2s to hit, and even if he's carrying a Thunderhammer, it's -1 to hit rolls, but then Space Wolves on the charge is +1 to hit rolls, so therefore he's going to be on 2s to hit, rerolling his 1s. Those attacks that are made are going to be very, very reliable attacks coming through. So 4 attack space. Now with Space Marines on the charge, that's an extra attack, and then with Space Wolves, when Assault Doctrine is active, you've got Savage Echoes, which is 6s to hit, are popping extra hits as well, so that really adds some potential there as well. So to enhance him further, because remember he's unnamed, so you can start adding on Warlord traits and relics. I stack him up with a Warlord trait and a relic, and it's all about trying to make him more potent without spending extra points, because your relics and warlord traits aren't going to cost you any actual points. So I give him the Wulfen Stone, +1 attack for any Space Wolves, infantry, biker and cavalry units within 3 inches, and that includes himself. When they make their attacks in the fight phase, he doesn't have to charge together, he just always gets the +1 attack for the Wulfen Stone, and he'll buff other units nearby. So that's base of 4 attacks, 5 attacks on the charge, 6 attacks now with the Wulfen Stone. Then I give him the warlord trait here, Saga of the Wolfkin. So he gets +1 attack on the charge, or if he is charged or performs heroic intervention. If he manages to slay 5 enemy models, which is very likely with him because he's got carrying this nasty Thunderhammer, then once he does that, that +1 to attack on the charge then becomes a 6-inch bubble, and he'll grant it to other units nearby as well. So potential 7 attacks with him. Nice lot of attacks, 2s to hit, rerolling 1s. And if you get to Assault Doctrine, AP -3 becomes AP -4 on the Thunderhammer as well. And then there is, and you know, if I've missed anything, then by all means call it out. But I'll share with you some of the good stuff here. Touch of the Wild. Uses stratagem. It's 1 command point. Uses stratagem in the fight phase. Select one Space Wolves character model in your army. At the end of that phase, resolve an attack made by that model. An unmodified hit roll of a 4+, scores an additional hit. So 4+ is for auto hits, which is crazy. Half your attacks will be 4+. So yeah, you could potentially come up with 10, 11 hits in 1 round of combat, and that's coming through at strength 8, even -3 or 4, 3 damage a time. Deadly. So you're taking your standard model and you're just adding on top, stacking up all these bonuses to make him better. And then this is that one. And then only in death does duty ends. If the worst thing happens and he dies, then you can play that Space Wolves character from your army is slain. That model can immediately shoot as if it were the shooting phase, or fight as if it were the fight phase. So all of his stacked up bonuses, he gets to fight again if he's slain. That could be enough to bring the target down. And then Honour the Chapter, which gives him an edge above things like Dreadnoughts, because at the end of the fight phase, select a Space Wolves, infantry, biker or cavalry unit from your army. You can fight again for a second time. It costs you 3 command points, but for him to repeat all of his attacks, and if it's all stacked up bonuses, crazy. If you charge into 2 Leman Russes, take out one, pay the points to take out the other, rip the heart out of a guard army and change the course of a game if he makes it into close combat. So that's the other thing, he's a character, so you can hide him away behind screens of other units. You can use Thunderwolf Cavalry to shield him if it's a large enough unit, to try and guide him in. And they're the expendable unit, you know, they're not really equipped with much, but they're protecting the golden nugget as he moves up the table. So that's my loadout for a Thunderwolf as a Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf mount, but be interesting to see what other combinations people recommend. But he's at number 3. So number 2, and that is, it's difficult making this choice, it really was. Yeah. Still having doubts. It's Murderfang. First of all, you know, great model for your collection. Space Wolves themed Dreadnought, fantastic. So heartily recommend from a collector's point of view Murderfang. And Games Workshop did a fantastic job doing the plastics Space Wolves Dreadnought. Absolutely brilliant. And you can make different types of units with it, but the job they did is excellent. So very highly rate the model, and then great potential on the table as well. Exceptionally powerful unit. 150 points for him, by the way, with the Storm Shield and Thunderhammer. So not too expensive, not too bad, and it becomes more and more worth the points being spent once you start to stack up bonuses. So here is Murderfang, 135 points, an absolute bargain to put into your army. That's 9th edition points values. The damage potential from this Dreadnought is utterly ridiculous. You can play only in death as duty ends, so if he dies, he gets a chance to fight again. It's all about trying to get him into close combat, and at the right time. Now, what can protect him is he is a character, So you can shield him behind other units, which is great for escorting him up the table. So that'll add a layer of protection. As I take an Iron Priest, sometimes he'll be able to restore some wounds if damage is taken. That's something else to bear in mind. There's 8 wounds, it's not too bad. He has no damage profile. So if he's got 1 wound left, he's going to fight just as effectively if he had all 8 wounds left. So that's very, very good. He's 8-inch movement, nice and quick for a Dreadnought. Usually it's about 6. So that's excellent. Weapon skill is 2+. That's superb. And it's 2+ and then +1 on top of that as well. So if there are any -1s shenanigans going on, it's going to be +1 for Space Wolves anyway. And then the base of 5 attacks. So superb amount of attacks. Remember, Space Marines getting an extra attack on the charge if they are charged for Shock Assault. And then Murderlust. You're re-rolling your charges. And if you do make a charge, you get an extra 2 attacks on top of that as well. So that's 8 attacks on the charge. He's a character, so you can play Touch of the Wild. It's only 4+, pops extra hits. Assault Doctrine. Unmodified 6s popping extra hits as well. It's crazy what he can do. And then if he doesn't bring the opponent down and then they turn around and destroy him, he'll fight again. He is a time bomb on the table. So the key with him then is to keep him alive, and it's to screen him properly, and then to choose the right target and then send him in. And once he's in, there's trouble for the opponent. So that's the idea of Murderfang. And all of that for 125 points. And you've seen there's been a couple of games where he's gone against Mortarion and he's brought Mortarion down single-handedly. So that's the potential that Murderfang has. I think that's pretty much all the tips I can think of for him. If there's relics and mortal traits nearby, you can add a few extra attacks on top of that potentially. But even his base amount, 5 attacks, 3 attacks on the charge in total, is crazy. I need to mention the Murder Clause. The Murder Clause then times 2 strength. He's going to fight at strength 12, AP -3 or AP -4 if it's Assault Doctrine, and a flat 3 damage. It's fantastic. And then just to put the icing on the cake, the Murder Clause reroll failed wound rolls as well. It's very reliable to hit, very, very reliable to wound as well, which is excellent. So it's very unlikely you're going to whiff, like mess it up, because there's so much rerolling involved and so reliable to get those hits and wounds. So Murderfang comes heartily recommended, and like the claws and just the pose of the model, fantastic. And Siege has done a great job. One thing they did, I didn't ask them to do this, but they painted the frost here, and then they used like a gloss varnish on it just to make it all shimmery and shiny. Maybe not be able to see it on camera, but it's quite clear from my point of view. It looks fantastic. So nice job. There's a bit of a glint, maybe you can see that, just catching on the blades. So Murderfang is in, and keep a look out for him in games. Usually he's up to something. If he survives, cause him trouble. So next then, it's the same page. You probably guessed, it is the Wulfen. So, not that the Ultramarines would have anything good to say about them, or the Red Scorpions, but they are in. They're in my list, and the amount of times in games they have, if I'm able to remember the rules. There's a lot of rules to remember for them, and if you start forgetting rules, it can really handicap them. So it's well worth practicing with these and making sure you get the rules right with them. I take a unit of 5. You can go up to units of 10, but again you've got to be careful in 9th edition that you're not spending too much points on a large blob that's limited, and also the fact it's going to attract blast weapons and so on. So I find a unit of 5 is fine, if you're able to preserve their numbers, so that's not a great unit to deploy right in the front of your army and the opponent's just going to fire everything at them, but rather obscure them and hide them and then bring them out at the right point, because you want to try and deliver them at full strength when they charge into a target. And what target? Well, pretty much everything. They'll charge into anything and do well. Light infantry, medium infantry, heavy infantry, tanks, vehicles, everything. They'll charge in and cause absolute havoc. You can play damage potential is horrific, and then if you have the points, you can play another chapter and they can fight again. If the opponent brings any of them down, you have Death Frenzy. So 5+ feel no pain. Then, and they've got 2 wounds as well, so they're quite durable. If a model in that unit is slain in the fight phase, then once that enemy unit has finished making all of its attacks, you can attack with that model before removing it as a casualty. You get to fight again with all of your attacks. So Thunderhammer, fighting away, 3 attacks, 4 attacks on the charge. The opponent fights back, brings one of the Thunderhammers down, and fights again, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, they've got movement 7, they can advance and charge, so they're quite quick. The weapon skill 3+, but again, Space Wolves on the charge, or if they are charged, +1 to hit rolls. So 2+ usually, Thunderhammers is -1, so 3+. Strength 5, so the Thunderhammers are strength 10. Toughness 4, they've got 2 wounds each, so nice bit of durability there, 4 up save. I give 2 of them, the loadout that I go for here is 2 of them having Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, like so. The squad leader, I think you have to take Frost Claws, and then 2 of them with the Frost Axes. So the Frost Claws +1 strength, so the leader's going to fight strength 6, if -2, and he gets an extra attack, so 4 attacks base, extra attack for the weapons, extra attack on the charge. So loads and loads of attacks, so useful if you plunge into some light infantry and need to chew through them quite quickly. The Great Frost Axe, it's cheaper than the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. You're getting strength 8, 8 -3, D3 damage, and you get a bonus attack, and no minus to hit rolls either, so it's quite a good weapon. And then to add a bit of durability with these and a bit of reliable sort of tank busting ability, I've given 2 of them Storm Shields as your 3+ invuln save on 2 of the models, followed by the Feel No Pain, and then Thunderhammers on there as well, so giving you strength 10, -3, 3 damage. It is -1 to hit rolls, but it's 3 attacks each, so 6 attacks on the charge, 8 attacks, so you're going to get some hits and wounds coming through. So the most effective I've seen the Wulfen is when they've been held off for just a little bit. It's been tragic when they've been caught out and shot and destroyed early on in the game, and they're gone. So trying to preserve them, keep them alive, and being patient with them, but not to the point where you're just hanging them right at the back and they don't do anything, but that kind of just turn 2, turn 3, trying to bring them in. Careful placement on the battlefield where there's areas where you can see they can run to and hop to and be heading away. Yeah, they can take a bit of damage coming through, roll up a few 3+ invuln saves, but if they start taking a torrent of firepower, they're going to start being brought down, and then their ability to smash through a unit they'll cause some damage, but their ability to wipe out stuff will start to disappear. So I try and be careful. They're a great asset, and so it's worth being careful with the Wulfen. 210 points for that loadout with the new points values for 9th edition. So yeah, they're expensive enough, but they have the potential to kill 1,000 points worth of stuff in a game if they do well. So that's the Wulfen. Maybe they do come with Curse the Wulfen, so they can grant reroll charges for units nearby and +1 attack for units nearby as well. So there's a good number of rules there. You've got to remember about the Feel No Pain, don't forget that. Remember that they can fight, models can fight before they're removed from play, and then the Curse of the Wulfen, 2 rules there to remember as well. So a fair few things stacking up. Things I've forgotten before, the Great Frost Axe, the extra attack. Sometimes I've done -1 to hit rolls and I shouldn't do this, no minus to hit rolls. So there's lots to go through and remember with the Wulfen, and it's worth doing because at their full potential they will chop through. They'll chop through anything. They'll bring an Eldar Wraith Knight down, no problem. If the Wraith Knight stomps all over them and they die, they'll fight before they're removed. So it's just a case of getting them in and then just let them go mad. There's not much the opponent can do about it. So that's the top 5 for the Space Wolves. Check out the previous video, top 5 units for the Thousand Suns. If you like this series, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the video out. It's much appreciated. Check out the comment section. If you're experienced with Space Wolves, leave your own comments. Perhaps you agree with the ranking that I've done here. Perhaps there's other units that you say should be brought in. What Primaris units should be in the top 5 specifically for the Space Wolves, then share that as well. But that's the top 5 units, in my opinion, for the Space Wolves. Thanks for watching, and tune in.